Hi, everybody. I'm Traven Rice, and this is a Lowdown Culture Cast. We're talking with culture changers, and I'm very excited here at P&T Knitwear in the podcast studio today to be talking with horticulture, Nonhuman Teachers.
Nonhuman Teachers. Horticulture is the name of our events series right now on the Lower East Side, but Nonhuman Teachers is the name of our nonprofit organization.
Yes, and that stemmed out of Hot Cactus?
Yeah, some of the people who are part of the nonprofit came out of Cactus Store studio in Los Angeles, and we now have a much broader sort of group of collaborators. But yeah, it was born out of that project.
Excellent. Okay, so could you just introduce yourselves and let us know the roles and how everything came about and kind of where we're at now and how you ended up here on the East Coast, because I know you started on the West Coast.
Yeah, my name is Christian. I'm the executive director of Nonhuman Teachers, and what was the other one? You want to know how it came about, or what?
Yeah.
So I'm also a partner in this other project, Cactus Store Studio, which started in Los Angeles in 2014. Which we do all sorts of things. From we have an a landscape architecture and design firm. We have made 2 stores, one here on the Lower East Side and one also in Los Angeles. We make clothes for gardening in. We made a perfume that makes you smell like a tomato. And everything we do, it's all pretty playful, but at the heart of it is projects that help broker relationships between people and plants. That was really the acorn of the tree, of the Cactus Store Studio tree.
And that was an idea that struck you based on your experience as an artist, but also just in the natural world. I mean, what was that spark?
Well, we started as 3 collaborators who were independently growing and collecting rare plants. Southern California is a place where almost anything can grow. And because of it, you have a lot of plant heads who are getting interested in the way things grow and the different kinds of strange plants that this world makes, and growing them in our backyards and building little greenhouses. It's a little subculture that's been around Southern California since at least the 1960s. And a lot of us got into growing rare plants through the old timers. They would give us, oftentimes they're giving us their old plants because they can't stay alive long enough to keep these things watered. Some of these plants live, hundreds of years. And actually, early on, we got interested in this idea. The idea of the plant orphan. What happens to a plant after its owner no longer can no longer care for it? So we have a conservatory, a plant orphans conservatory in Los Angeles, where we have a huge number of plants, but along with those plants come stories and relationships that we've inherited.
It sounds like a very big, interesting, sprawling project. Let's introduce our other guests here before we keep going.
So my name is Joe. I am the programming director for New York-based events here, for Nonhuman Teachers here in New York. And I've been in sort of the Cactus Store orbit for 6-ish years. When the store opened here on the Lower East Side in 2017, I walked in and was like, I'll work if you will give me some plants. And I've just been in the family ever since, and I've been running the store since 2019. Yeah.
So I should say there is a store which is very easy to miss, and I've spoken with many of my neighbors here on the Lower East Side, and it's on Essex Street, at the bottom of Essex Street, and you can not know that it's even there. It's next to Schames Paint building, mm-hmm. And if you go inside, you'll see bamboo, and then further in, you'll see this amazing collection mm-hmm. of different and rare cactus and plants.
Yeah,
and it's here seasonally, though.
We're seasonal, yeah. So we open up usually around mid-May every year and close around the end of September. Or this year we're going to extend it a little bit farther into October. But yeah, a lot of people walk by and I think they think that garden that is the front of our store, which is open to the public, is a private space connected to 7 Essex, which is condos next door. So for anyone who's listening, please come in. You're welcome, and we're open Thursday to Sunday. So yeah,
I highly recommend it. We recently got a tour from Joe, and it's an amazing, magical place, I would say. And then, not to mention, on top of that, there's events that happen in the garden there.
Yeah, so we've been doing events at the store since the beginning. And last year was the year it really clicked, where we were like, we should do this in a different way. And we'd started a conversation about putting together a nonprofit group, and it really became a central organizing tool for us with Nonhuman Teachers, and a great way to bring people together and talk about these, things that we think are really important.
Okay, so speaking about the nonprofit part of it, Sandeep, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Sandeep, and I started working with Cactus Store about 2 years ago during the pandemic. I left a job at a bigger firm, and I just wanted to start doing more community-driven work. So I started working for Cactus Store and a few other creative businesses, and Nonhuman Teachers, the idea was born around the end of last year. And so at the time, I was on a few board of directors for not-for-profits, and Christian asked me to be on the board of Nonhuman Teachers. So that's sort of my role with them.
And so what inspired you to do that? What is interesting, or what caught your interest with them?
I mean, like you said, the garden is magical. And when you walk into that garden, magical things happen. Like I first went in there just as a fan, a patron of the store. And then a few weeks ago, an email just popped up in my inbox from Max Martin, the CEO. And ever since then, just beautiful things started snowballing in my life. I met friends there. I met my boyfriend there. Fell in love in that garden. And I was like, there's a higher calling here.
The one right here.
Yeah, 5 Essex is where it is. Yeah.
That space has a funny way of bringing people together and
fusing people together, really.
That's amazing.
It's a cool space.
Yeah, so I just wanted to help them in any way I possibly could.
So how did you come about going, from the West Coast to that space?
We were invited by a friend of ours here on the Lower East Side who owns the property. It was an empty lot. There was just grasses growing, and he approached one of my collaborators and said, if you ever wanted to do something on the Lower East Side, I'm not doing anything with this property, propose an idea. And we sent one of our collaborators is an architect. We sent a design for the greenhouse. And that's one of the things we do, is we design greenhouses as well. So we sent a greenhouse design, and he was excited about the idea, and he had friends that were architects here on the Lower East Side and kind of understood the zoning and permitting stuff. So they helped us with zoning and permitting, and then we built that space. And it was supposed to be up just for a few months. It was a hugely ambitious thing to do because we were so busy we didn't have time to oversee the project here in New York. But there was people that were excited enough about the project over here that they helped us do it. And it was a huge community effort just to get the greenhouse up. And then getting all of the plants from the Western United States over here was also a huge ordeal, driving these things. It was just so crazy and so much work and so much fun. But after the first year, we've just been invited back every year. The owner of the property has not, knock on wood, hasn't done anything to the property until now, and we're happy to be here. People are excited every time we come back.
Yeah, definitely. And people who have been here for years and years walk in and they're like, oh my God, what is this? I had no idea. Yeah. It's very delightful for them, coming off of the street. Obviously, space is so precious here, and it's just that little creative, magical space. Like, what can you do it? So I'm interested in hearing about, obviously this is about engagement, this project, and the non-human teacher aspect of it specifically, I think, is a creative way of engaging people because? Well,
we believe that nature is a social event, should be a social event. And a lot of nonprofits that do ecological type, what we kind of focus on is ecological storytelling, finding new ways of talking about the world, bringing in new and diverse voices, not just scientists or politicians, but air traffic controllers and dog walkers and rat hunters and mosses and sea anemones. It's, there's so many voices that aren't being heard. And right now, to us, Earth is the biggest story on Earth, but it's one that so few people are telling. And we really want to create a way for more of those voices to be heard and to bring more people into the conversation. So our events is one of the things we do with Nonhuman Teachers. We also do make immersive green spaces that become places where the community can gather to see these events, but also to be introduced to a relationship with plants that they might not see anywhere else, or with stories that they might not hear anywhere else. And then the other aspect of what we do is new nature media. We're working on a nature show right now, a new nature show that I can't talk too much about, but really excited about it. We've been working on it for the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm. And so, but you could talk about maybe the idea around what that means, like a new nature media.
Sure. Well, nature shows, most nature shows are made by one man in England in his 90s, and he's a wonderful, beautiful soul. And of course, I love everything Attenborough makes, but the majority of what nature shows is a depiction of our world in 8K HD, a sort of pristine savanna or jungle replete with animals, and no collision between humans and the natural world. And that's really a huge missing piece of that story. So we want to, our nature show is not just about the natural world, it's about a natural world that includes people and characters. And that's, it's funny how simple of an idea it is, but it changes that form so much.
That's great. I think, I was reading some of the literature about starting up the nonprofit, and sort of there's a constant theme, obviously, when we talk about ecology these days around crisis, state of emergency, and also for a lot of us, I think it's very easy to sort of tune out almost, because it does feel quite overwhelming for those of us that are paying even a little bit of attention. And so I'm really, really inspired and interested in the idea of sort of, let's acknowledge that and still have some creativity around it, and let's invite conversation instead of putting our head in the sand or freaking out.
Totally. Well, fear and shame are real, and things are fucked up right now, and it's scary, and we all get it. But that's just one door into the building, and we're more interested in going in through other doors. I mean, there's a lot of nonprofits, Tree People is a great one. They are planting trees, and you go to their different spaces and you help them plant trees and water trees. Or there's nonprofits where you clean beaches, and nonprofits where, there's every flavor of nonprofit, but a lot of them are based on this kind of do your part idea, which of course we align with. But we want ecology to be something that you want to go to on Wednesday after work, and a place that, where there's people that are like you, and it just feels interesting and fun and easy to, and, the word ecology means relationship, and it's really hard to build a relationship based on fear or, or shame. Those are dysfunctional relationships are built on that stuff.
Or denial.
Right, exactly.
Also.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's like, I feel like we're past the point of at least, most people, like, we know that shit's ugly and it's all our fault. Like, let's leave that, let's leave that behind, and let's learn the name of a tree and learn how to grow it, or go to a habitat that you didn't know exist in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, on that note, how about a cactus? And how come cactus? Or cacti? Is that not even a thing? Cacti? Is that?
I think both are.
Yeah.
Cactuses or cacti, I think both are fine.
Yeah. We originally got interested in, I personally am interested in plants that grow in places that are hostile to humans. Orchids are the same. They grow in these jungles that swallow people. But cacti grow in, they're these incredibly misunderstood things. People think they're aggressive, but they're incredibly timid and quiet, and they want to be left alone and solitary. And yeah, so for me, like that's what drew me in, but that was really just a starting point. We're interested in all things. It was just a name that kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a tendency for people to think of Cactus Store as just that one thing, but really that was a way to start a conversation about nature and ecology at large.
Yeah, it took me a while to realize, it's not just a cactus store.
Totally.
Not that there's anything wrong with just a cactus store, but I was like, oh no, this not actually is a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe you could talk about what people would encounter if they come into the cactus store, for example.
Well, right now we have had this installation up for the past 6 weeks from one of our collaborators, Miguel Guedoche, who's an artist and a designer based here. And it's this really bizarre stucco plywood box constructed speaker system. And he built a fire pit as part of it, and he did this amazing performance where we did slow roasted food and slowed down cumbia music. I don't want to speak for him. There's more on it online, but that is what you're immediately encountered with when you walk in right now, is this big sort of pyramid style sound system. And then once you get into the greenhouse, we focus on all different types of plants. We have some weird weeping junipers this year, some miniature orchids from Java, a lot of cacti and succulents, so the name is not too much of a lie. But and then we do a lot of rare tropical plants as well.
Yeah, and then how do you all sort of think about and get excited about the type of the guests that you invite for performances?
Well, like we were saying about our book club before this started, we really gravitate towards people who have unique relationships with the natural world. From Alexander Lieberman, who takes birdsong and translate their songs into westernized musical notation, and then has musicians play those songs on glockenspiels and saxophones and stuff as music, thinking about birdsong as songs. And he's really an artist. He's not, he's not an ornithologist. He's an artist. But art was the door for him into learning about and observing and listening to birds, and which we, of course, just love. And then who else have we brought in? We just did this fellow a couple days ago, Joey Santori, who's a quote-unquote citizen scientist, who he's just a walking encyclopedia of plant facts and nomenclature, and he's really carved out this really important space for himself as a science communicator, but he doesn't have a degree. But I don't know any, of all the botanists that I don't know anyone who has all of that nomenclature in their head the way this guy does. Really interesting, just showing that it's really just enthusiasm that can bring you in, and you don't need to have this sort of privilege of access to a degree and education to enter this space.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to get people excited about it, and bring them into the conversation. Because it still blows my mind that we can host an event on a busy Wednesday night in the Lower East Side where we're surrounded by bars. People could just be going there to hang out, but we have them paying $25 to come hear a 70-year-old Scottish man talk about how he trains his terriers to hunt rats. I'm blown away that we can, sell out a crowd of that and have people really excited about it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so as far as going forward, Sandeep, how do you envision the beautiful, good look, the sort of the perfect outlook for how it evolves?
Well, yeah, if you look at last summer, we did these events on a small scale, but that was before we had the not-for-profit. And it was a lot more challenging because it's harder to give it to the community when it's underneath like a business umbrella. So that's sort of why we pivoted at the end of last summer, and we created the not-for-profit sort of like as a way to let other people feel ownership of what we like love so much. So going forward, we kind of want to focus most of our attention on the not-for-profit and growing that and including as many people into the conversation as we can. Because right now, the conversation is led by a very small group of people, the heady scientists. And so with Nonhuman Teachers, we kind of want to invite painters, rat hunters, like Joe mentioned, people who just got off work on a Wednesday night. So in the future, we just are trying to get more partnerships with people, grow horticulture. We also want to start growing our workshop classes, book clubs. Yeah, we're pretty much open to anything. We're like a twig in the water, just flowing.
And I think also a big thing that we want to do next year, a big goal of ours, is to make more of our programming free. And we're really talking to, potential collaborators and partners that can help us do that. Right now, we're a fledgling nonprofit organization, so we're having to charge admission for about 60% of our programming. But we're looking to make more and more of that free and open to the public, be able to do more events, have more people out, that kind of thing.
And I think, we have one more event coming up this season, and then ideally we'll be back probably, hopefully, sometime in 2024 with more horticultural events. But in the meantime, we want to continue to grow this community with workshops, with, the book club, and just meet more like-minded people out here who care about this stuff and have stories to tell.
Fantastic.